Hello, my name is Remington Donovan. I'm known as a numerologist, an astrologer, a tarot reader, a mystic, a yogi. All of these systems that I utilize are practices that were handed down to me. I was very fortunate to have teachers and an adept master hand me down orally much of what I teach. I also grew up in an ashram with Swami Satchidananda, so I've been in this a long time. And these systems really merge as one system, and it's the Mystery Tradition School. Tarot is a holy book that is written in the language of symbols and pictures. The tarot cards depict archetype universal energies and concepts greater than ourselves. They show a visual representation of that. The tarot as a practice can be used to tell a story, for you to go deeper into yourself. Tarot is a spiritual practice. It is a meditation. It is a great way to help decipher what's going on in your head and what's happening in reality. Now, tarot used as a predictive tool really shows a trajectory of events based on the here and now. It's not as if it's written in stone. It shows, like, it amplifies your current state, and based on that state and those vibrational frequencies, it can show the course that you're going down. For example, if you get some negative cards or cards that seem like a bummer, that's just guiding you, letting you know, hey, where it stands now, as you go down this road, these are going to be maybe the obstacles, or perhaps it's all a great easy flow. It's showing that. So, you know, the idea that tarot or even astrology or numerology is written in stone is a really big misnomer, because if it was written in stone and we were just, you know, victims of fate, there would be no reason to utilize tarot. There would be no reason to utilize astrology. And I'll also show how astrology and tarot go hand in hand, and all tarot is actually a breakdown of astrology as well as numerology. Tarot really holds these keys to everything, and it is completely aligned with the tree of life of the mystical Kabbalah. I find that's an important concept as far as the fate idea, because I'll do readings for people and they're actually often nervous because they're afraid the cards are going to tell them some grave fate and horrible situations happening, when it's an opportunity to look at the truth. My head, for example, I might be over processing and tripping out about some situation back when I used to, you know, have to apply for jobs, or I was like misreading things based on my own ego, my own intellect, my own mind. Or now, you know, I have so many clients, they're misreading a situation. And what's great about the tarot is it just, if you're good at reading, it'll just show what the reality is. So it kind of helps you get out of your head. More often than not, you see, oh, this is not as bad as I was thinking. You know, if you get a card that's, you know, sort of negative, like this Five of Wands, for example, that's a card that would read as some sort of conflict. It's known as a card of strife, so it's some sort of battle. What I've learned, though, is that the quote negative cards function in the same way that your gas gauge functions. You want to know if you're about to run out of gas. And if you could imagine driving a car without a gas gauge, you're probably going to have a lot of anxiety and concern trying to figure out if you need to get gas or not, and you're going to run out. You should be thankful that a quote negative card, it's just showing you, hey, these are some things to be concerned about. Or just like, you know, the cell phone, the battery reading on your phone. Like, you want to know, oh, I'm at 10%. I need to charge my phone. Imagine if that didn't work at all. You'd never know if your phone was just going to go dead. So that's like the negative cards. They're just a gauge, they're a readout. And again, they're showing up because we as practitioners, we're empowered to create and cause change. If it was all written in stone, why would you even want to know? You could just go through your life. So tarot on a deeper practice is a spiritual tool. Tarot is a meditative practice. The images, for example, help activate something in your psyche in your consciousness that opens up to higher all-knowing consciousness, which is really just a higher part of yourself. So tarot is a tool that is used for your spiritual development and less about fortune telling. I don't really use it as fortune telling. I use it to navigate situations, but the practice of tarot itself will start opening your consciousness up. Now, what was taught to me is that the best tarot readers never have to use tarot cards. That is something that really stuck with me, because after a while, you don't need a device. You don't need an outside device. For example, what are tarot cards? And I ask this whenever I do a tarot course, and I get a lot of great answers. They're a mystical depiction of, the energies of the universe and all this brilliant stuff. But as it was taught to me, what are tarot cards? Tarot cards are pieces of cardboard. It is not the card itself that holds the energy. It is as if it were almost like an antenna that utilizes higher energies that activate something in your consciousness. Now, I always teach too that tarot exists without tarot cards, which is also what my teacher was more or less saying. The best tarot reader would never need a tarot deck because you're already aligned, you're already in tune. I've actually done practices and I've even utilized tarot cards, and I've pulled cards in my mind when I didn't have a tarot deck on me. The other idea is that these practices, when used for more of your personal spiritual evolution, the side effect of that is the intuition and the psychic ability. So another misnomer about magic is that people maybe think that you're doing magic that is about psychic ability and all of that, or city powers as we call it in yoga. And the way it was handed down to me is that that doesn't equal any type of spiritual advancement or spiritual attainment. Most people can learn to use that intuition. So the magical philosophy in utilizing tarot is to keep working on your spiritual growth. It's a path of devotion and dedication and unraveling your own mysteries and becoming aligned with your soul. Tarot is one of the tools that help you do that, and allow the intuition part to be just it's a bonus side effect, but it's not the end result. How do you read tarot? In a way, your best bet is to make it really simple. When you do a pull, when you pull out cards, I have a deck here, so here's the Lover's card, for example. So this card, I have a lot of intellectual knowledge of it. I know this is the card of Gemini. I know the Hebrew letter Zayn is attributed to it. That is the symbol of a sword, on and on and on. That is all well and good. I utilize that for teaching. But when you actually are doing a reading, you should let go of everything you think you know. And what was taught to me is to just get into that space where you're a little child and you have a wonderful imagination and you're free and you're pure and it's easy, and look at those cards as pictures and start to tell a story. I was never allowed to look up cards in a book while doing a reading. I could read about tarot, you can read about tarot in your time, but if you're going to be trying to look for answers in a book, what you're doing is you're short-circuiting the whole point of tarot. The point of tarot and what it will do as a meditative practice is it's going to activate something in your own psyche that has access to what the answer is, and you become a channel, not of any entities or anything, of the all-knowing part of yourself, and that's gonna come through. And so ultimately it comes down to intuition. I do find that the layer of knowledge, meaning intellectual knowledge, as sort of opposite of intuition, becomes something greater in my psyche that's a wheelhouse. So when I pick a card, I go right to what is the first thing that I'm seeing. So when I pull this card up, I'm looking at this little sort of Cupid cherub with the bow and arrow. And if you see that that little guy on top. So I look at that, and if I were doing a reading, for some reason, I'm focused on that arrow, which actually looks to me either like part of a dial of a clock that looks like it would be at 5 o'clock, for example. So now I'm thinking 5 o'clock, evening. Maybe there's something that relates to a time frame or whatever the case is. Of course, I'm not doing a reading. I'm just trying to show how the technique of just honing in on the first thing you see, remove your thinking. It just takes practice like anything else. But when you overthink it, when you over-intellectualize it, you start trying to look it up in a book, you're never gonna get the answer. I use this example often, but it's a great one. I had a client who was on the verge of giving up acting. I lived in Los Angeles for years, so I had a lot of actor clients. I saw this whole production, and I said, so you're gonna get actually a huge theater part. And she wasn't thinking about theater, and this was a very high paying position. This was a theater group. I said, it's gonna be a stage that looks like the Center. I was like, it's like Center Stage. I didn't even know that's a huge theater production company in Los Angeles, I believe around the world. But the point is, I saw within this card, the 6 of discs, that she was going to be on stage. It was Center Stage. And then she emails me like 3 days later, and she got a huge role with this Center Stage theater group. And I saw the lights of the way the lights hung for this stage set. There is no tarot book on planet Earth that says, if you pick the 6 of discs, you're going to get a part with the Center Stage theater group. You can't read a book. On your own time, having knowledge, I can extrapolate a lot more from the cards. And if I know, oh, a particular card is Saturn and Pisces, I may focus on that Saturn. If I clear my head, there's a greater resource of information for me to sort of download, if you will. But I hope that's clear. If I looked up what the 6 of discs means, it would have said something financially successful, materially successful. So I'd say, oh, something good will open up. The other key with reading is you have to be specific. Because if you're vague, what stays in vagueness, or what happens in vagueness stays in vagueness. I love that line, but for tarot and astrology or any readings, that's so true. Like, how many times have you gotten a reading and someone is just like, oh, there's gonna be some great energies opening up for you? Like, what the heck is that? I wanna know, like, what is the firm that I'm gonna get a new job with, or I'm gonna meet, my soulmate in Paris, or whatever the case is. So if you're not specific, it's vague and it's almost useless. So some of that takes practice, but you'd be amazed if you just let your intuition and allow that first thing that comes in a nanosecond, that maybe your ego wants to truncate it and diminish it, and then you start overthinking, well, I don't know, this might sound stupid. If that notion comes to your head, this is gonna sound stupid or crazy. Every time even I think that, I'm always right, by wild intuition. So you're picking up. So the tarot as a tool is helping you access something that's beyond your logical mind. And so when you read, be specific. Also ask questions specifically. I learned this myself when I first started learning, and the state at the time, I was spending a little bit of time, I was in Virginia, and I was like, what will be the progression of events for Virginia? Well, now I'm doing a tarot reading for the state of Virginia, which is completely irrelevant to me. What I meant to ask was, what will be the progression of events for me for the time I was spending there, or whether it was California or Idaho or who knows. I learned right away, oh, that's a totally vague question. So be specific. Another thing, the cards are always right. It's the reader that may not interpret it accurately. So the cards are right. You have to trust that. The other thing is, this is a big teaching. Never ask the same question twice. So be mindful, be specific. But if you're just asking the same question twice, you're just trying to manipulate and have the cards tell you what you want to hear. You know what? I'm sorry, maybe he's just not that into you, right? Like, that's always one. He loves me not. She loves me not. You can't force it. And so if you keep asking the same question, you're just invalidating the cards. And on a low level, it's almost like a blasphemy, because you're not trusting the cards. They might tell you things your ego doesn't want to hear, but at the end of the day, the tarot is helping you, guide you on what is the highest course of action for you and your soul. The other thing with being specific, if you're reading for somebody else, it's really good to not speak in the language of tarot. Don't be like, oh my God, I got the 7 of Swords, right? Ugh, like that doesn't mean anything. So don't speak in that language for 2 reasons. One, the querent may have no idea what the heck that's supposed to mean. And maybe they do have some knowledge of what the 7 of Swords is, but now it's bringing their ideas and their thought forms and their ego into the situation. You're not being specific now. The other practice is when you don't speak in that language, you get way better at describing the scenarios and what's happening. And so it's going to make you a better reader. And then at the end, you have to make sure you leave a querent with a course of action, because tarot is about learning what actions to take. It is not about what is going to happen to me. Again, it's not written in stone. We use tarot so we can create an action plan. And you have to leave the querent satisfied with that action, and you have to be specific.